Domestic violence is a pervasive and insidious reality in our community, and Dakota County is no different than anywhere else in this country. Hello, I'm Adam Carter from WCCO Radio. Domestic violence takes many forms. It may involve physical, sexual, emotional, or economic abuse, involving a variety of behaviors used to intimidate and control victims. The violence is domestic because it occurs between intimate partners, a spouse, ex-spouse, people who live together, people who have a child in common, or couples in a dating relationship. These are people who profess to care about each other, but then something drastically changes.
No, the cops are way on the way. I'm going to jail. Slap my wife with a TV set.
Police and fire, how may I help you? Ma'am, what's going on? Ma'am, he has a knife?
It's one of the scariest 911 calls for police to handle.
4860, 4840, report of a physical domestic. Getting reports that the male's been drinking and may have been doing some sort of drug, possibly cocaine. Female reporting she was laying down, talking to a friend, and then the male jumped on her and started choking and slapping her. She's heard what she's describing as quick pops. She believes it is gunfire and that the male is shooting at this time.
The Dakota Communications Center handled just shy of 5,000 domestic violence calls last year. That's an average of 13 per day. Rita Krusmard's 911 call last September from her Burnsville home was one of them.
I was so scared. Probably more scared than I've ever been. He had this glazed look on his face like I'd never seen before.
Rita is one of nearly 1.3 million women physically assaulted each year by an intimate partner. Rita sought refuge at the B. Robert Lewis House, a shelter for battered women in Dakota County.
They pretty much helped me start a whole new life. How do you forget a facility like that?
This isn't a story focusing on domestic violence, but instead it's a story of a home celebrating 30 years of service to victims of domestic violence.
They were my salvation at that point.
Invaluable resource.
The work that they do is amazing.
We all need to work together.
I think that the efforts of the Community Action Council have been profound.
In 1979, a young woman who later would become a blazing symbol for domestic violence on the local level was instrumental in starting the Lewis House. Mary Ajax shared a vision and drive to turn the Lewis House from concept into reality.
We just began without a penny. We didn't have a penny. We didn't know that we would ever have a penny to do anything, but we knew we had to do something about this problem that existed in our community.
Penniless, the Community Action Council forged ahead anyway and went to work building the Lewis House in Eagan.
We're going to buy a piece of property and we're going to specifically hire an architect and we're going to design a facility so that it is made uniquely to be a home for abused women and their children. And we're the first people in the country to ever do that.
Years later, the Lewis House would become a strong symbol for domestic violence in Dakota County.
I think the Lewis House is instrumental in helping the whole process of dealing with domestic violence across the board. Again, educating the people involved in it, I think. Also, having a safe place for women and children who live in violent situations, a safe place for them to be.
I never thought in a million years I would live in a battered women's shelter.
Since its creation, the Lewis House has provided shelter for more than 20,000 women and children who came seeking safety and security to escape violence in the home.
I'll remember them always through my heart. They have taken us in for Christmas, so they're helping my family with Christmas. Oh, forgive me. They're just awesome. I'll always remember them from the inside out.
In addition to providing shelter, nearly 2,000 women and children annually receive support and safety planning services, even though they don't spend the night at the shelter.
There's no way that the police can solve that problem by themselves. It has to be done by a multi-pronged approach. And the important part with Lewis House is that they're a resource that we can take the families, get the families and the children the support they need as we work through the domestic violence issue.
The Burnsville Police Department has taken an aggressive approach to domestic violence, having started a Domestic Abuse Response Team, or DART, back in 1994. Since then, the department has worked side by side with the CAC.
we're there to keep the peace right now, but then we have to move on. These people need some more support and some guidance, and that's where the Lewis House and CAC can step in and really provide that one-on-one positive information that these people need.
I was abusive. I was angry all the time.
The success story of the Lewis House comes full circle of sorts. Abusers benefit just as well as the victims do. This man, who wishes to remain anonymous, is an abuser. He abused 2 ex-wives before the CAC pointed him in the direction of a therapy group for wife beaters.
I owe the Lewis House a debt, and so does my daughter, and so does my grandkids, because the cycle of abuse in my family is broken. It's not going to be passed on to another generation.
This abuser has received help from Ronald Pedig, who has been a licensed psychologist working with abusers for nearly 3 decades. Pedig credits the Lewis House as his inspiration to keep going all these years.
Just being in the shelter too, to see the women too, and the people there, they're usually full. The staff is usually very crowded too. They're just very committed staff that inspired me to just keep going, keep at it, and keep getting the training, and to keep doing the groups.
Karen Ospong has been a district court judge for 15 years. Domestic violence is a regular part of her life as a judge. It's from the bench where she sees how the Lewis House has had a profound impact in the community.
Victims would not have a safe place to go in the middle of the night, in the middle of a crisis. Their children would not have a safe place to go. And I think that more people would be forced to remain in a dangerous situation without the benefit of the Lewis House in our community.
Other judges agree. The Honorable Joseph Carter says the Lewis House has made his job easier.
It assures me as a judge that appropriate steps are being taken so that alleged victims are safe once they leave the courtroom.
Although fashions have obviously changed over the past 30 years, the issues central to domestic violence have not.
So the only way we're ever going to solve this problem is by all of us working together to solve this problem. And from the very beginning, back in 1977, when we started working on this, we did it in partnership with the community. And that is unique, and that is the solution.
Today, we celebrate 30 years of amazing, inspiring, life-altering work done by everyone connected with the Lewis House and the supporting cast of community members, including police, prosecutors, courts, volunteers, and program providers who are dedicated to protecting victims of domestic violence. But here's the real challenge. What can we do so that 30 years from today, another group of dedicated community volunteers are not celebrating the 60-year anniversary of the Lewis House? How can we come together to change the attitudes and social norms that provide the foundation for violence against women? If we are raising boys or mentoring boys or coaching boys, we need to have conversations with them about respecting girls and women. Men, it's up to us to stand up and count ourselves as allies of women who are working to end the violence perpetrated against them. We need to educate ourselves about the issue and take action, which may include calling out other men when they say degrading or demeaning things about women. We need to encourage other men to join our cause in making the world a safer place for the women and girls who share this planet with us. I'm Adam Carter.